We are back on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio, News Talk 1180, 1230 KGEO, and 1410 KERI. Our guest in studio, Marvin Dean from Kern Supporters for High Speed Rail and Jeff Taylor for Save Bakersfield Committee. And Clay, you had a question for Marvin before we went on the break?
Well, I did. There was a sports movie one time, and the comment was, show me the money! Where's the money, Marvin?
Well, let me first of all say this to you guys, and I agree. The state of California, and not only that, this entire country is in a tough financial shape. And I'm a conservative. I don't like what I see happening with the fact that we're floating all this money.
Marvin, you're a conservative?
I am. Trust me, I am.
Okay, I like you.
I am, really am. Most people don't know that about me.
Well,
I'm an independent as well.
Right.
So, but anyway, to answer your question, so we have to be concerned about that. But now, here's the reason why I take this position. I would say if you kill the project, it's not going to tame Washington and Sacramento to stop so-called, if people say it's a waste. I look at it as an investment. They're just going to waste it someplace else. So my concern, if it's going to waste, it's an investment. Let's do it here in this valley. Second piece of that is the only money that they know right now that they have, that $68 billion on the table, is this $8 billion in the bonds that they've got. And then with the authority that the bonds, I think what we passed when we did proposition, whatever it was about, I think maybe 1A, I think it was maybe about 45 billion. 45 billion. So that's still a shortage of where the rest of the money is going to come from. But I would venture to say, once this project is started, we're committed to it now. And I think you're going to see, and one of the things that their business plan was private investments coming in to help when the projections are there in the first segment of the operating system. As you know, the first segment is projected to be from Merced to the basins Southern California. That because the first of this area they're doing, they're just getting the system up. It's not an operating system like people say. The operating system is going to be from Bakersfield to Merced, that it's to nowhere. But they're looking at to start raising revenues and selling passenger tickets, and that is actually from about Merced going into the basin of L.A. in that general area. So that'll be create your revenue stream. And they're thinking that what's going to happen is by that time they're going to get private investments to come in this thing. I don't know that to be a fact, but I would venture to say that we've got that kind of an investment on this project, and it's up and going, that you're going to see more interest from the private sector. And then who knows what's going to happen with the politics in Washington.
Okay.
Now, if the politics, the folks that is in there that's running things now, they're committed to the White House, but the other side of the camp is opposed to high-speed rail. So we don't know how this is going to shake out, whether there's going to be any more federal dollars that are going to be committed. But I think if the Democrats get back in, they're going to be committed to high-speed rail, as you know that. If the Republican gets in there, they've already said that they're going to try to kill it. So, but I think if we've got this kind of investment already laid out there, that private investment will come in. But who knows? And I can't predict that. So it is a concern that we all have to be concerned about. But that money that they're going to spend, where's that money going to go? That $8 billion, it's going to circulate back to the community. So it's going to go somewhere.
Marvin, all your comments remind me of a song I once heard. It's called Fairy Tales Can Come True. They can happen to you.
I'm not running this thing, okay? I'm just telling you from my perspective. I too have concerns, okay?
When we look at the money, it's fairy tales right now because there is no money. And who's going to invest in this thing?
Yeah, and Marvin, I don't want to pick on you, but when it comes to the money, we had Michael Rubio on a little while ago. And excuse me, he made the comparison between high-speed rail and the Transcontinental Railroad. And I told him, I said, the only similarity I can think of is that Abe Lincoln and Jerry Brown are probably the same age. But other than that, I couldn't think of any comparison. With the railroad, they gave the railroads the land adjacent to the railroads, which we're still. I live in Tehachapi, and we deal with that all the time up there with railroad rights, people leasing the land back. So they've made money on that for 150 years now. There's no kind of set up like that for high-speed rail. So, right now, all the lobbying and everything, all we have is $1 billion in private money. That's way short of what we need. So we've got a phenomenal gap there between what we need and the best projections. They're projecting $65 billion. We all know it's going to be over 100. Even at $65 billion, they're way short.
Right, but can I just say something? I agree.
Yes, please.
Because like I say, my concern is too. All these questions are valid. I'm a citizen too. But my major concern is if this project is going to happen, and I've been watching it close enough that barring a successful lawsuit, it's going to happen. So we need to be engaged in that. I mean, well, people have their own opinions, and everybody's entitled to that. But I'm just telling you, from my vantage point, I believe it's going to happen. So we want to be engaged in this process. And the second thing is those questions that you're talking about show me the money. Just to take a side note, on September next Wednesday, week from now, September the 16th, we're bringing the new CEO of the high-speed rail to
September
Bakersfield.
26th.
26th. Thank you for that. The new, and I would invite you to come, ask these questions to the new CEO of the high-speed rail, Jeff Morales. Only been there about 30 some odd days. The new project manager for the high-speed rail, which is the one that's involved in the construction of this thing, and that's with Brinkoff and Parson and Brinkoff. Vice Chairman Tom Richards, and the new project small business advocate.
Now, where's that going to be, Marvin?
It's going to be at the Rice Bowl, Bakersfield. We wanted to do it in downtown Bakersfield at a small venue, which is the Rice Bowl. You guys know Rice Bowl.
Sure.
It's a local firm. It's a small minority business. So we want the money to go there. And what we're going to do, we're going to do three things. We're going to start, and we've asked the city of Bakersfield to come talk about what their concerns, Kern County, why you're concerned, what opposition, so they need to hear this, to have a frank conversation. And then those folks will then talk about the construction of this project, answer questions, and then there'll be time for the people in attendance to ask questions. Then we're going to have a VIP reception so you can have FaceTime with these guys in a separate room.
And what time is this?
And that's going to be the reception. The luncheon. The luncheon is going to be from 12:30 to 2:30. The reception will be from 2:30 to 3:30. Then from 3 o'clock to 4:30 is going to be an opportunity for the business community, all sides, to come. What does this project means to me, and how can I be a part of it? As an example, the first phase of this thing is going to be right-of-way acquisition. So we're saying local real estate brokers ought to be there to make sure that money's spent here. That's a $40 billion contract.
Let's come back to that in a little while.
$40 million.
You just got a lot of PR on that.
And let me reintroduce this, and then you can ask the question. Our guests in studio: Jeff Taylor from Save Bakersfield Committee and Marvin Dean from Kern Supporters for High Speed Rail, talking about high speed rail.
I have a question for Jeff. Jeff, this seems to go along party lines. Do you know why that is?
Yeah.
Well, it's conservative against spend all the money we don't have. I mean, that's what it is. We're fiscal conservative-minded people aren't going to borrow $68 billion or be committed to borrow $68 billion in California bonds with no money in the bank.
How many people currently ride Amtrak?
That's a good question. I will tell you that the San Joaquin corridor, which is from basically Merced down to Bakersfield, is one of the highest increasing corridors in the nation. Mm-hmm. And that's why it doesn't make sense to build a new Amtrak rail, which they call, the project calls an ICS, or initial construction section. It's 130 miles going from Merced to Bakersfield when we already have an Amtrak train. Their plan is clear. They want to take our existing Amtrak off our existing Amtrak corridor and put it on this ICS so that they can call it, so that they can say that they met the independent utility requirement in order for the more federal money to come into the project.
Okay, what's ICS?
ICS is initial construction segment. That's part of the $8 billion that we're pot committed for on this first phase of the project.
Wouldn't this be better used if it was like in Orange County to Los Angeles for high-speed rail? There's bigger population, more need for it?
Well, you know, when they first came out and advertised this project, it was to get massive amounts of people from the San Francisco Bay Area to L.A. Okay? We had a private firm from France that is experienced in building high-speed rail trains. They came and approached high-speed rail with a proposal. We will plan the project, we will fund it, if you will allow us to go down the I-5 corridor. The other corridors make no sense. We can do it for $38 billion. And the High Speed Rail Authority denied that. That was in 2010.
Why?
That's a good question. We would like to know why. It would cause far fewer impacts. It would get the large amounts of people from point A in San Francisco to point B in Los Angeles in a much quicker straight line. Bakersfield's a nice place, but we're not a tourist destination, and neither is Fresno. If they wanted to connect to this rail corridor going down the I-5, they could make little spur lines to connect.
Maybe Merced's a destination everybody wants to go to.
You know, I heard that it's very nice. You know, it's important also to think about the history of this project. In 2006, High-Speed Rail advertised an 800-mile high-speed rail infrastructure project for a cost of $33 billion. When the voters approved it in 2008 in the Prop 1A initiative, it went to $45 billion. In 2011, the scope of the project was reduced from 800 miles to 520 miles, and the cost had increased to $117 billion. Today, it's a 480-mile-long project of upgrades to existing conventional passenger rail systems in Los Angeles and the San Francisco Bay Area, and a wink and nod promise that one day we will get high-speed rail systems down the San Joaquin Valley.
Okay, Jeff, now when we come back in a moment, hopefully it won't go up another $20 billion in the time we take the break.
It's ticking.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio, News Talk 1180.